Hey, Matt, I know we're just talking before the show, but you remember last week when I was talking about shitty farmers markets bands, what I love about America? I actually saw a band. I know I sent you a video of a duo that wasn't necessarily shitty. And I was eating an almond croissant, and I'm like, that was, well. But anyway, I was eating an almond croissant, the non-gluten variety, and I look over and I see this band. That's why I sent you the video. So I thought it was pretty cool, what do you got, man?
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we've got some breaking news here on the Mighty Peculiar. Our roving reporter, Doug, has a report for us.
My goodness.
I am in Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, home of this landmark that you have sent me to find, and I have found it. So I want to tell you that the story you are about to hear on this episode of Mighty Peculiar is one you will have to back into slowly, gently, and never dry. But you are watching and listening to the Mighty Peculiar. Mighty Peculiar. Peculiar.
Oh my goodness, everybody. Welcome to the week. And I have my good friend here, Matt, the man, the tinfoil man Anderson. And I know that we have a hell of a show because like we do all the time, it's facts-based, insights based on data and research, usually by people self-identifying on things that Matt find in newspapers, data, articles, or them on video. So Matt, what are we talking about, this week on the Mighty Peculiar?
You know what? I think today it's almost, what aren't we talking about? This story has UFOs.
It has old Ewoks.
It has Bigfoot.
It has intelligent orbs.
It has grifters.
It has the Men in Black.
Does it have government cover-ups?
It does, with Interdimensional portal.
Does it have small town parades?
It does, with people on beds. This is an incredible show.
Yeah.
I think that you need to go ahead and just get this thing kicked off because I'm telling you right now, I don't think people are going to understand what this actually is until we explain it.
Yeah. You say I need to get this kicked off, but we got some business to do. Kind of, people are starting to know this drill, right? So let's do the regular business up top, which is please like this episode, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications on YouTube. If you're just listening to the audio version, please rate, review on your podcast, whatever the podcast service is called. I never know what they're called. However you're listening to this, rate and review this. Because if you don't, we have no choice but to tell the space squirrels that you're hoarding their space acorns. And I think they're going to kneecap you. So
this show is going to be nuts.
New business. So that was old business. New business. For those that are in the Chicagoland area, there is going to be a Mighty Peculiar-ish live event. 2/3 of us will be there. Really, it is a spotlight with Denver Riggleman at the Geneva Public Library in Geneva, Illinois, on October 2nd, which is a Monday. It's from 7 to 8 p.m. The actual event is called Bigfoot, Myth, and the Conspiratorial Mind. It's going to be moderated / trolled by me. But Denver is the star. So you want to come, if you're in the area or you want to come to the area to see Denver in person, it's going to be Monday, October 2nd. Registration is recommended, not required. And you don't have to be a Geneva resident to register. It's just go to their website, gpld.org, and they just want your name and how many people are coming so they kind of have a count for what to prepare for. So
I'm a star for sure, but I'm a star seed. Let's be honest. And I think I even have some people made pictures of me with the star seed background based on the fact that I'm probably some kind of alien progeny with the DNA to actually enlighten and open up people's minds into other dimensional portals, which we're going to be talking about today. And this is a great precursor to the Geneva Public Library about the conspiratorial mindset, because I think what we're about to show today is how everything actually leads up to fantasy-based monetization and sometimes violence. And I think that's why I love this story.
Yeah.
I know that I sort of turned you on to this, Matt.
Yes.
And not in a weird way.
And I am, so far as you know.
So, I mean, I'm really excited to hear about the background here. And I'm here, and, based on the fact that I lived for 10 years in Pennsylvania, a lot of my family came from Pennsylvania, which was the Connellsville, Dunbar area up near Pittsburgh. My wife's family came from Pottstown, Pennsylvania. We lived in the York, Pennsylvania area when I worked at the National Security Agency at Fort Meade in Odenton, Maryland. So I'm really excited about this whole thing, right? Especially about the PA epicenter, which I think might even be scarier than the Bermuda Triangle, Matt.
Our story takes place in the Chestnut Ridge area of Pennsylvania. It's mostly in the southwestern part of Pennsylvania. It's about 70 miles long, really along a ridge of the mountains. And this area of Pennsylvania has been described as the most unusual area this side of the Bermuda Triangle, which I take a lot of issue with, just as someone who has spent a lot of time reading about the Bermuda Triangle. To me, that's not a great comparison.
It's like somebody using the myth of something else that's completely bullshit and then applying that to the bona fides for another area that's mythologically, magically crap.
Exactly. And you know what's even better? So
it's a layering of assholery. Not that this is part of this whole story from the beginning.
And we're going to add another layer, because where we're going to start this whole journey is in a town called Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, which the event that we're about to talk about is a UFO event and has been described specifically as New Mexico has Roswell, but in Pennsylvania, it was Kecksburg. Now, I'm going to ask you, Denver, is it good to be compared to Roswell?
Well, it depends on your point of view, if I can be honest. I think it's great to be compared to Roswell if there's a money motive behind somehow marketing, what happened in Roswell, because, again, I know that we've gone over that, but 1947 on, Roswell probably made a little money from that.
Yes.
On the other hand, to be linked with Roswell as a facts-based, sane human being means that you're going there to watch the freaks get freaky.
100%. For the mighty peculiar audience, you will know that what we've established is that Roswell is a nothing. So being compared to Roswell should tell you nothing.
No, it's so true, Matt. I mean, I think that's why this story is important, because you're looking at not only to be compared with Roswell, but the Bermuda Triangle. So, 2 times 0 is still 0. I think, math today, for all those people, we also do that math thing. But the algebra here is that it's a layering of proof of a mystical place with so many things happening at once. It's almost mind-boggling. I think also that we have to, look at why this comparison to the Roswells and Bermuda Triangles, why it's so hokey, but also so valuable to the people making that comparison.
Yes. Now let's talk about why it's being compared to Roswell. So we're December 9th, the year 1965. There is a bright light streaking across the sky, and it seems to crash land in Kecksburg near the Kelp family farm. And I'm going to say Kelp, K-A-L-P. All right. Now, the primary witness, or one of the primary witnesses to this being in the sky and then landing, is young Nevin Kelp, which is not a name, but it is. It's Nevin, like Kevin, but with an N, Kelp. Just one of the things where, to me, that was an early indicator that we are just going to go into quirkier and quirkier territory. That's like a tone setter, right? So residents gather and they go searching for what crashed. And allegedly, they find some fragments, some remnants, evidence of a crash. And now, as the story is told, and this is what I want to stress here, is this is a recounting of the event, not necessarily factual. This is just how the story's told. They find something. Mrs. Kelp goes back to the farm, calls the authorities,
right,
to say we found something. She hangs up the phone. 2 minutes later, the Navy calls. Now, she didn't call the Navy.
There we go.
And they're all cryptic about it because, like, I guess the Navy is like cryptic about this stuff. Government shows up with a flatbed truck, scoops up this craft, which was described as shaped like an acorn and about the size of a Volkswagen Beetle. And now, again, 1965, we're talking classic Volkswagen Beetle. So, size of that, shaped like an acorn, fell from the sky. Government grabs it, puts on a flatbed truck, carries it away.
So, thinking about some of the stuff you're talking about, like Kecksburg, which is Kecksburg, correct? Mm-hmm. You have Nevin Kelp, which is Nevinkelp. I think this whole story could be about incredible names, but it's amazing the way you just wrapped it up is that you just said this. You said that the Kelps in Kecksburg saw a chaotic and cacophonous crash. And I think that's an incredible way to really sum this up.
Cheers. That was a work of art.
Thank you. It was alarming alliteration. It's...
So one of the things I think is interesting is just kind of a little aside. So I was kind of puzzling over the idea that, like, the way that the story is framed, that, like, Mrs. Kelp calls the authorities, alerts them to it, hangs up, and then 2 minutes later the Navy calls. That really feels like Men in Black language, the way that Men in Black would call. And I don't know if it's just because the story was popularized prior to really the Men in Black being identified as like key like figures in these things.
Now, they backed into this story, man. And let me tell you, I think a lot of it has to do, I think the Men in Black is part of this whole Chestnut Ridge experience.
Yes.
And I know that, like, for a fact, because we know the Men in Black and by the way, and what's so cool is at the beginning of this, you said that's the start of it is 1965. That's why this story is so insane.
Yes.
That the Men in Black type of ethos, right, sort of runs to this whole thing.
Right. So in this, that's the perfect point, because now, much like Roswell, and this is where I feel like the comparison to Roswell is an apt one, not in the way it was intended, but in 1965, this event, a real event does happen. Something does fall from the sky. I will spoiler, like much like in Roswell, there was stuff that fell from the sky. Unlike what the lore that has since come would have you believe, like a day later, it's a non-story. It was something that happened. It was not considered, it was weird, but like not, it was nothing. Life went on. So we go from 1965 to 1973. And this is where I kind of need to turn it over to you, because we're going to meet a whole motley crew of other weirdness at this point, right?
Oh, we do. I mean, there's always I think there's always the avatar, right? There's always the creator of a certain brand of money making.
Yeah.
And I think when we look at somebody, so for instance, 1965, you already had individuals that were sort of following the Bigfoot phenomena by that time, right? Yeah. So now we're from Men in Black to Bigfoot phenomena, but you also had the UFO phenomena that had been wrapped itself in like indelibly with these individuals making money on doing these type of investigations. So by 1973, what have you had by then? I mean, from 47 right through, 70, was 72 the folk monster, the Legend of Boggy Creek?
The 70s just in general, it becomes where a lot of these stories that we have are always told, like, were like ever present, like big deals. This is where they start reemerging after gaps, because the 70s, late 70s was when Roswell finally reemerged. The Bermuda Triangle finally becomes a story in the 70s with, like, was that Berlitz or something? Like the author who suddenly writes a book.
That's right.
So, so it's like the 1970s, it becomes the in thing to do to drudge up these, maybe odd events that at the time are unexplained, but again, footnotes, right?
You had fantastical thinking. You could sell books. I think the 70s In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy, right, really got popular at that time.
Yep.
Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, UFOs, whatever weirdness, dogmen, werewolves, whatever you want to talk about. So I think that's part of it. But then you had people that really were able to monetize this in a way. And, when you look at, Roger Patterson, I've told you about the stories, how he had the, cash in the hat type of auditorium showings of the Patterson Gimlin film and the weirdness there, based on my book, Bigfoot is Complicated, shameless plug. But then you have somebody like, even in the 80s, Lauren Coleman.
Yep.
Right. You had Lauren Coleman, but then you have that center gap of who are the people that are really pushing this, and that's Stan Gordon. And Stan Gordon was the one who really pushed these type of belief systems with his books, with the type of gear that he had. He tried to make it look really technological.
There's a great
he was
photo
using things that
of him
really weren't meant for that type of research and trying to apply it, which we have talked about in some other things in our past with ghost hunting, right? And using things like that, right? EMPs. So it all sort of comes full circle that you have a guy who was using a massive amount of equipment, leveraging what was already happening with investigators looking at paranormal or supernatural activities. And then you have this guy who actually creates a team in this area around Kecksburg on Chestnut Ridge. And this team goes out and investigates things. What does that sound like today? That sounds like all the organizations, the Bigfoot Research Organization, right? When you're talking about the UFO and the UAP, freak shows out there that are actually going out and looking out. I shouldn't say freak shows. I should say weirdos. But, you have those guys going out there right outside of Area 51 or Skinwalker Ranch or, doing this ridiculousness. So you have this business model. It's a business model.
100%.
So, Matt, that's why your first question, full circle, that I'm going to let you rock and roll, is so important. When you compare something to Roswell or the Bermuda Triangle or something like that, you're setting up a business model for that place based on supernatural activities. And the more you can throw at the wall, the more spaghetti monster shite you can throw at the wall, whether it's Men in Black, UFOs, little talking Ewoks, when that guy had the fake language about that going on in Kecksburg, right? Or that it was but a light, a little 3-foot Ewok looking older thing that was trying to learn English was asking him to come into the light, and he's walking his dog and he ran away. Let me tell you, I'm going to go hug that fucking Ewok, and I'm going to go there and I'm going to love on it. And I'm going to say, I want you to take me to the other dimension, Ewok. Take me to the other dimension, right? Why the hell are you running away from an Ewok? That's a sweet Ewok. I mean, what are you doing? Had kind eyes. Artwork on this, Matt. If you go look at the documentary. Go look at the beautiful artwork of the little Ewok that shows up. You go, come with me, or whatever it was saying in some kind of weird language. Maybe that was Cyrillic. Maybe that was the Cyrillic on the side of the Kecksburg butt plug. Maybe that's where we're at right now.
Where's George Lucas from? Because, my God, like, if there is just some remote possibility that in the 70s there was this thing that people were seeing, and he's like, you know what? I got an idea.
When was Close? Okay, all right. When was Close Encounter of the Third Kind? When did that come out? I probably need you guys, Matt and Doug, are smarter than me on that.
That's one of those movies where it's like it's either the very tail end of the 70s or it is like the very early 80s, because it's that like where it bleeds together.
Right, so Close Encounters is 1977. I mean, Dreyfus was probably on cocaine, but I don't think that takes away from how important it is from 77, right? That look, here's the thing, and I know that I already have taken this in a direction of craziness, but you put me here, Matt. It's your fault. It's Doug's fault, right? I mean, he was the one out there doing a special report beside the acorn of justice and love. So I think that at this point, we're talking about the 70s maybe being the gestation point for a lot of what's happening now, which I think I would really like to, 47, Roswell, huge.
Yep.
62, Socorro, New Mexico, big UFO encounter. In between that is 58 with Jerry Crew and Bigfoot. In between that is the Yeti shit in the 50s, right up on, Mount Everest. you have all this crap rolling in. I think the 70s was really the bloom of crazy. And I think a lot of that bloom happened in Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, and the Chestnut Ridge.
Exactly. Importantly, what happens is, Stan Gordon, he writes a book documenting the Kecksburg stuff, which is now, again, at least 8 years old, right? Like
yes.
So no one has talked about it. This guy drudges up local history, finds something, goes, all right, that's my thing.
Wasn't that book like mysterious? What was it? Oh gosh, I just lost the title. I had it because I had that book. I know you like Word Den.
Well, but it's also hard to say because this guy now, what we have to mention is Stan Gordon becomes a lifer from like 73 forward.
That's right.
He will not leave this story in this area alone. This is now, he's found his thing, and that's it.
Yeah, that's what he does. And he's famous for it. Or famous in cryptozoological circles and supernatural circles, yes.
So what he does is enough to keep this like story just percolating out there that by 1990, but again, so we're still talking about significant jumps in time, right?
Yes.
1990, season 3, premiere episode of a little show called Unsolved Mysteries leads with the Kecksburg UFO.
Was that Robert Stack?
Yep.
He was actually the host of the Unsolved Mysteries then, 1990. Yep, I saw that actually when I was I actually just saw that. So yes. Gotcha.
Yeah, I watched it too. Fun fact, you can see an then adult Nevin Kelp, and I still don't believe he's real, but
he's real.
It's not his name. Okay, so let's talk about where Doug had been reporting from. The space acorn, we'll call it, right?
Right.
Which is prominently displayed in Kecksburg. That same space acorn that they are displaying is what was created by the crew of Unsolved Mysteries to film while they were in town filming their recreations, the reenactments. Then the crew packs up and leaves the prop that they made for this town, this little town, to be like, well, what do we do? And at this point, it's silver. So you can see what you saw Doug reporting in front of at the beginning of this episode. You can, if you watch that episode of the Unsolved Mysteries, you'll see that exact same thing. It will be silver in that episode. So again, if this was such a big deal, if this was like a life altering, like nothing, reality's never the same again, you would think this would be a big deal for the town. No, it was kind of a burden for the town. They didn't know what to do with this thing. So they kind of like set it aside for 15 to 16 years.
Oh,
in the meantime, someone painted it brown. They don't know.
It's so amazing that it got memed into society between Stan Gordon, his investigative team of probably fairly nice individuals that were just credulous and susceptible to this kind of stuff, or they were just grifters or crazy or cynics. And then you have In Search Of with Robert Stack.
Yeah. Unsolved Mysteries.
I mean, I'm sorry. Unsolved Mysteries. In Search Of, as you know, is always in my head, my friend.
Right.
But Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack, season 3 in 1990.
Season premiere. This is what they felt was. So you either know in season 3, you're either like at the height of your success or you're on the decline. I don't know which, but they felt that this story was strong enough to be because, and there was usually like 1 or 2 stories or one story and like
unbelievable
updates. They felt this was strong enough for a season premiere lead story.
What's amazing, the fact is, so a prop.
It was a prop made
for a show is the centerpiece of UFO sighting. People see that every day.
Yep.
They see that, and that becomes implanted in their brain as actually what's landed in a field.
Yep.
It's painted brown. It's got some kind of bizarre. They said Cyrillic.
No one knows who painted it. But like the town was paying so little attention to this thing after it was left that someone again, size of a Volkswagen, because they built it to rough scale. That's the size of it. Someone painted it brown for no reason, and no one knows who did it.
I think I know why. I think I know why.
I'm scared of what you're going to say, but
no, it's actually pretty innocent. I think it was somebody who was artsy, and they live in Kecksburg on the Chestnut Ridge, and I think that they thought that maybe this could be like a statue acorn
fall festival
that they could use for a festival, right, or something like that. The fact that they talk about that bizarre like Cyrillic writing on the side, it also reminds me of the Liberty Bell. It's like the UFO plug of justice is also like a Liberty Bell recreation and a nut.
So it's funny that you mentioned the writing, like that's along the base of this. Like if you haven't seen it, if you've only read about it, like they hilariously always refer to like the writing as hieroglyphics, which leads me to believe that they have no idea what hieroglyphics look like, because that's not what this looks like.
Maybe that's why I said Cyrillic. It's at a higher group, and that's. But I know that you talked about Kecksburg 65, and we have all this stuff going on with Stan Gordon and his investigative team. There's shows about it, but it seems to me like everything else, it had to get more and more fantastical in order for people to be sort of attracted to it, right? Or there had to be more insanity introduced, except just a UFO crash that looked like a acorn, which can be explained away. It just seems to me that whole ridge area becomes sort of a God. What word am I looking for, Matt? It's like it becomes this generator of supernatural activity.
Yeah. So Stan needed to make a living, and he can't just keep writing about a singular event. So what do? You pile on.
And that's what he did.
So,
well, I mean, and people are being influenced in a way. I do believe, and I don't know how to, you go to certain places that say it's a Bigfoot center. It's like Bermuda Triangle, or it's a UFO center. Right. It's an interdimensional being center, or it's a portal, right? It's, sort of it's, people talk about ley lines, if you're talking about the same place doing the same thing all the time, I think individuals say, well, you know what? There must be a lot going on. What I saw flying was a Thunderbird. I mean, we haven't even gotten to the point. We haven't even talked about that the Thunderbird activity in the Chestnut Ridge, is legion. So you have Thunderbirds, Ewoks, Dogmen, Bigfoots, interdimensional beings, aliens of different stripes. You have aliens that look like they crossbred with Bigfoots that can't be shot. You have them going in and out of portals. You have wailing a baby that's connected to the Ewoks, that's connected to this weird language that was coming out of these little beings that sort of asking people to come with them in an interdimensional journey to wherever the hell they're going, to whatever type of probing that needs to be done. And then you have, after that, then you have these people that say, hey, they're having time loss. And then you have abductees. Yep. Like it's evolving so fast with these reports, but the reports are being cataloged by Stan Gordon and his merry band of fantasy searchers. And it's what's amazing about this. Then you write books about it. And then when you write a book about it, then there's people think they're actually in that area. Then people that are credulous, or they already believe in this direct link to the supernatural. Maybe they think they're getting prophecy from some godlike deity. So why is it so hard to believe that the UFO aliens aren't in the Bible? And why is it so hard to believe that there aren't little aliens that are going around that are trying to protect the environment? And then why is it so hard to believe that was an actual UFO that crashed there? And it all started back in 1965 with Kecksburg, because it came through a portal. And now you have a bunch of weird activity going on because the Kecksburg acorn fertilized that area for so much crap to happen on Chestnut Ridge. And then those people can write about it. Then they already believe it. And then they start to have festivals. And then you have all kinds of crap that happens after that.
You're right. You know what? Even like an Ewok gets a hit single with Jub Jub. Like it's amazing. So much stuff happens.
I wonder, did Spielberg get his idea about the Ewoks from Kecksburg?
Yeah, oh, wait, well, hold on. You're just going to make so many people angry. George Lucas, not Steven Spielberg. Please do not write in about that.
I'm a Star Trek guy.
Okay. Do not. Oh,
I mean, George Lucas.
Because, like,
I don't want to make people mad.
We like when the audience engages with us. Not that kind of engagement. We
understand.
Whew.
Well,
sorry,
I'm going to tell you right now.
That brought me back to comic book world flashbacks of like,
hey, if you put all these beings in one place, out of Kecksburg and Chestnut Ridge, it does look like a Star Wars bar scene. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll see myself out now. I think I've just hit the pinnacle of awesomeness and connectivity. I think that I'm an algorithm of awesomeness, right? I am the pinnacle of professionalism, right? I am the sinister face of sensationalism. I think this is, I think that's what we've proven today.
I'm sorry. Are you possessed by the spirit of Stan Lee? Like, what is happening with you today? Sinister.
I don't know. The Kecksburg crash.
No. Again,
brown acorn plug-like thing has me excited.
So you mentioned earlier that like you kind of thrust this topic upon me, right? I was actually, again, pull back the curtain a little bit. I was a day and a half into researching a totally different episode, like not at all to do with this. And then Denver suggests this. And at first, like brush of me just kind of doing the basics, like, what is this? I'm like, what? How in the world are we going to build an episode around this? Like, what is it? It seems like nothing. Oh boy. And then I dug a little bit more. And I found magic, like just literal, like emotional, like life sustaining magic in this weird small town, Kecksburg, right? What we've been talking about. Okay. So what we need to do is set the scene a little bit with, we are going to be in the years prior to 2008. So prior to 2008, the space acorn it's been painted brown sometime, but it's still off somewhere, right? Like the town has not embraced the story. They have their annual summer festival called Old Fashioned Days. Old Fashioned Days does not seem to have anything to do with it. It's not like Pioneer Days or anything. That's just the name of it, right? And there are two main events for this weekend, several day festival are one, during the day, bed race. Now, I didn't know what that was. I had no idea. So I looked it up. I'll never forget this. A bed race is a soapbox derby on a twin bed that you've fashioned wheels to. And sometimes you can, some people make it look like a pirate. Some people make it look like a race car, but it's a bed with a mattress.
Okay. All right.
Standard rules are 4 people have to push. So 1 on each corner. 5th person has to stay on the bed. And you race. Now, to give you what might be the perfect distillation of how small Kecksburg is. Okay, so if you're doing a bed race other places, it's like any race. Everyone starts at the same time, first across the finish line. Kecksburg is so small that they can only run one team at a time. So they have to make the bed race a timed event. So one team
time trials for bed racing.
So there is a series of just orange road cones down the entrance to a parking lot, not even a full road. One team has to go the length of the orange cones, turn, to which point they almost take out audience members like a NASCAR thing every time. There's video of this. It is wonderful. And you have to correct and then go back down the cones, and it's timed. That's their daytime event. So that's your co-headliner, right? It
could be fun. That could be fun. Okay. So what's their nighttime of it?
So the main event is a burnout competition. As a Virginian and a good old boy, I'm assuming you are familiar with burnout competitions. But for the audience,
I am.
Who I represent here, I did not know. So burnout competition is basically a race to set your tires on fire. Great.
To actually set them on fire. Like a tire fire.
So yes, that's the Kecksburg style. Now maybe burnout competitions don't always result in tire fires, but to win the Kecksburg one, you better set your tires on fire and you better do it faster than anyone else. But also, your car can't move because it's a really small town and you can't just be doing that. So they have to immobilize, like literally chain to concrete or blacktop your car so it doesn't move. And then you just sit in it and just pedal to the metal, spin up as much smoke as possible. And then as soon as it ignites, your timer stops, right? Well, and you see if you got the best time. Now, this is
the only competition I would win
fire to win a competition. Do you know who hosts this annual festival?
Who?
The Kecksburg Volunteer Fire Department.
Wait a minute. So the fire department, first of all, the only competition I would win is setting the bed on fire, which is a combination of both. And then I'd also like to say,
I think I came in right on time. So
yeah.
I'm here at the burnout competition's just about to start. A couple of quick things. Mr. Rogers is only buried like 8 miles from here. Now you might be wondering why I'm wearing this jacket. It's because I went to go see his grave, but because the town folk saw the cameras and the microphone and the lights, they just elected me mayor and in turn, subsequently, the grand marshal of this here parade.
You're the celebrity.
I guess I am. But you know what? While we're here and we're taking this moment, I have to correct you on something, Matthew Anderson. The Ewok song is called Yub Nub, and the B-side to that 45 was called Lopty Neck by Cy Snoodles and the Max Rebo Band. I didn't have to look that up. So what we're doing here is we are about to set these here tires on fire. So if you guys just brace yourselves and get ready for this, I hope to catch this live. Everybody's standing really still for some reason because they're in awe of my aura. So, all right.
Oh, wait. What's going on? What just got a tire fire crop dusted for the internet?
Is Doug dead? Like, my God.
Probably, but guess what? We're coming up to like our paranormal month in October, so he'll probably be back. No.
Is that an alien giving him mouth to orifice to make sure he breathes?
Dude, you know what? It's
I don't know.
Interplanetary life-saving techniques.
My God.
So
that's weird. I don't want to watch that anymore. Thank God it's off camera.
So yes, 2008, right? We got a little financial crisis around the globe.
Yes.
Obviously, a town like Kecksburg is not going to go unaffected by something like that. And it's important to note that the Summer Festival, Old Fashioned Festival, has the goal of that. The reason for holding it is all the funds go to funding the volunteer fire department for the year. So in 2008, while the financial meltdown's happening, the town is in need of a new fire truck. I mean, so it's like $300,000 for a volunteer fire department in this small town during a financial crisis. So they look around and they're trying to figure out, well, what can we do to juice sales, basically juice in, revenue. And there's Stan Gordon, who's been spending the last 25 years living off of their story that the town have not embraced. But now all of the mythology's there. All of the heavy lifting has been done. And Unsolved Mysteries gifted them a great centerpiece. So suddenly the space acorn that has been off to the side is now pulled out, put in a position of prominence. The road that goes through where the crash happened is renamed Meteor Way from whatever it was before. And then we get to the next Old Fashioned Festival, but no, it's not Old Fashioned. It's UFO Festival. That same parade that Doug was reporting from now gets a new centerpiece, right? They take the space acorn, they put it on a flatbed truck, tarp it, and they recreate when the government absconded with their UFO. And it works. It works. They get their fire truck, and from 2008 forward, it is the Kecksburg UFO Festival. All proceeds still go to funding their volunteer fire department. And it's so involved with that my new hero in life, a man named Ron Struble, who is a volunteer firefighter, but also head of the fire department's UFO committee. That is an official title. He's in charge. He has an interesting, it seems like, friendship with Stan Gordon, but whereas like Stan Gordon is the grifter / true believer, Ron seems very practical. This is for the budget. This is for his livelihood and the town's safety. So what they end up doing is opening a gift shop, selling just merchandise. Gift shop is also attached to a bar, which is also attached to the fire department, it seems.
So you could get drunk, think about aliens, right? And participate in firefighting conversations.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything better than that. You know, my grandpa and dad were volunteer firefighters. So and just this weekend I was at a car show. I know we're back to Doug and the burnouts. I was at a car show where I was putting money in a boot for the volunteer fire department. So I think Ron is brilliant, Matt, honestly. Yeah. And I also think that he probably thinks Stan Gordon is full of shit. But who cares, right? Because I think he's part of this breed of individual who takes a macro economy that's been created off grift, fantasy, aliens, portals, Ewoks, and all the things that happen, time loss, alien abductions, interdimensional beings that can't be shot or killed with glowing eyes that scream like babies. And he's taken that crazy grift and he's turned it into the good guy grift.
Right.
And I think now, right, the brilliance of this is that I think a lot of people know, I think you told me earlier before we were doing this show that they were selling just this baseline alien bobbleheads.
No, you got it a little backwards. Ron initially was like, we're going to just sell Kecksburg specific stuff. But then the people that were coming in from out of town, like he's thinking, okay, these people they're coming to Kecksburg. They're going to want merchandise related to that. But they just were asking for like the normal touristy tchotchkes, like alien bobbleheads. So Ron was initially reluctant, which again puts him in my, like, he's the good guy. But then he's like, well, whatever, if that's what people want. So now the store will just sell bobbleheads. And you can order. Let me add this really quick, and then I'm going to get out of your way. Like, I need to say, because this is wonderful and maybe my favorite fact about the whole thing.
Okay.
If you go to their website, you can't technically order anything from them. And by that I mean they have listings of stuff, but in order to place an order, you have to email them saying, I would like to order from you. Then they have to respond with an order form that you then somehow fill out and resubmit. There's no flash, there's no like pizzazz, because they are using the funds they get for their fire department. They're not, so like they didn't like suddenly get funds and like do a flashy website, which to me, that endears them to me. Right? So
it endears them to me. I mean, you have a practical guy. I mean, listen, you got a guy using interdimensional beings, UFOs, Ewoks, Bigfoots, time loss, alien abductions, bizarre probes. He's actually financing a fire department to save lives. He's using the macro economy created by our boy Stan for that area. He's levering that to ensure that he can buy new fire engines, new trucks. He can get new equipment. He can update the equipment. He can help with the dispatch, right? He can do all of that based on the fact that you have UFOs now involved instead of just burning tires till they catch on fire. And now it all makes sense because when Doug was reporting from the Kecksburg parade, there was an alien head behind him. And I wasn't quite sure if that was something from pre or post 2008, right?
Well, you said there's time loss. Like
there's time loss.
A victim of time loss.
Right. The other thing too is that we talked about, I wish we could have a 5-hour show on this because there's so many interconnected threads to so many different cryptozoological phenomena, because we didn't really get into the dogmen.
No.
Or the three-toed midget monsters or whatever they have over there, right? So, I probably have to say the three-toed little people monsters. But
I mean, I think if you're talking about like fictional things, you're probably okay. So
I'm okay. Okay. So, so that's part of my problem too, is because we got a good guy grift that's perpetuating a meme, which I think a lot of people are in on the joke, but some aren't.
Yeah.
But you have this massive fantasy ball, right? I've called it a conspiracy sticky bombs, right? Yeah. And you know what it makes me think of, which I don't want to be a downer. It makes me think of the myriad different beliefs that created the January 6th insurrection and the sacking of the Capitol, which you had Great Reset, the storm, where we go one, we go all. You had broken algorithms, Italian satellites, hammer and scorecard from NSA. You had, again, the sticky ball, this conspiracy sticky ball that actually led to violence.
Right.
It was memed throughout decades to get to that point. I mean, think about how long some of those conspiracy theories had festered. New World Order, globalists, right? Deep state conspiracy theories, false flags, all that combines for January 6th, which is the bad guy, weaponized violence, dead people grift. And on the other side, you got Ron doing the good guy grift, that he's actually creating this world where you can actually invest in fantasy in order to save lives.
Yeah.
It's such a peculiar thing. It's so mighty peculiar to think that we have the good guy grift and the weaponization grift.
Yeah.
And there's in the middle, the true believers that fuel them all. And that should be a concern.
Yeah.
Even though there's a good guy grift, even though it's cool, it's those fantasies can be monetized and weaponized.
Yeah.
Because if the answer, here's the thing. Money is always the actual motive behind it all.
Right.
And it really is, if the answer is money, what's the question? And I think that is the thing that really I love about this story, why it's so peculiar, is that there's a lifeline that's being thrown to a volunteer to fire department in a small town based on a guy that we know is full of shit.
Yes.
And that, to me, is such a magical thing and a good thing.
Right.
I also get this really deep feeling of dread about the belief systems today and what we've been fighting, what I've been fighting, for the past 5 years. So again, this is a very bittersweet. It's funny. It's great. But it's also bittersweet to me.
Yeah. there is a level of I am conflicted, about, but where I'm at is like, because Ron is marshaling, he's using what is available to him, right? Like he didn't create this myth. Like he can't, I mean, he lives in this town. This is what has been like kind of thrust upon them. This is what got plugged into the town, right? He needs resources, so he's using it. And yeah, does it like lend, like, does it cement it further? Of course. But I mean,
I know.
What are you going to do? I mean, like,
I know.
Speaking of good guys that are not grifters, Doug's back.
Doug, the good guy.
I lived. Really quick, this is my favorite Christopher Guest movie that's never been made. Like, I love this. This is amazing. I just have one thought, because I know Denver's on the clock. This reminds me of Charlton Heston. You talk about things that have been memed into society. All of the 10 Commandments slabs that are in front of state houses were put there not because we were a Christian nation. They were put there to promote the film, The 10 Commandments. There is film of Charlton Heston doing speeches at these state houses and dropping these Hollywood movie props off there, and they stayed there.
Weird liberal Hollywood is like pushing religion on what?
That's really interesting. You know what else we didn't get into, Matt, Doug? By the way, again, a mighty peculiar connection that nobody would have known. I think the good guy grift today and talking about how media perpetuates this, which has been a theme for us for quite some time, right, gentlemen?
Yeah.
And then what we didn't talk about, Matt, is the reporting during the Kecksburg incident about how they talked about it was UFO. Oh, holy crap. We have so much in this episode because it's the media also that really perpetuates this. The fact that there's documentaries, the fact, and then when Doug brings up the 10 Commandment tablets, we don't know what the hell that looked like. That could have been written on papyrus or on the ass of a camel, or I don't even know, right? It could have been emblazoned with lightning bolts on, whatever.
I think it was on an Ewok tunic.
In the KISS font.
Yeah, that's right. Who knows?
Right.
Who knows? That's the thing that's so amazing about this. This stuff has been memed. And I know that's not an exciting word, but it's exciting to me because, God, Doug, Charlton Heston going around and people fighting over whether the 10 Commandments that was for a movie should stay in front of a courthouse, and we have separation of church and state, and the fact that we have no idea what those tablets look like. Even biblically, we don't even know.
And it was a promotional stunt.
Yeah.
What's that?
It was a promotional stunt. Like, it's not the reason
stunt.
they're there is not even because it was like some religious event that was super meaningful. It was a promotional stunt, much like Kecksburg has a space acorn because a show named Unsolved Mysteries left it there. The town didn't create it. It's like the same thing. And as far as quickly things we haven't mentioned, you know what? We didn't even talk about the Russians. And what the thing that what crashed, what it probably actually was, because NASA confirmed it in 2005 based on evidence that it was likely remnants of an exploded Russian satellite called Cosmos, KOSMOS 96. That's
Holy
what
cow.
they pretty much figured it was.
That's amazing because I alluded to that at the beginning and we forgot. Didn't remember? I did.
No, I did.
Yeah. Do you remember this? But so it's amazing.
You said it's got everything. We have literally a remnants of the Cold War space race fell in this town, and it is really what kicked all of this off.
So Kelp saw Cosmos
96
in Kecksburg.
Yep.
Come on, Doug.
With that,
yeah,
you've been watching and listening to the Mighty Peculiar. Odd, strange, odd, strange. Mighty Peculiar.
What happened